our responsibilities and not take care of our children, but we can't control how God forms their lives. We can only ask and leave it up to Him. And it's amazing. What a testimony. One time she said that, she wrote that down over my life. She didn't ever get to be putting her hands in it or fixing it up. And God did it all. One prayer. Isn't that amazing?
One prayer written. And you know what amazes me, Jason, is that the years that passed, the grief, the pain that they were going through, wondering what had happened. And here she sits in the house of the Lord, receiving by the child that she had buried.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me. That's God.
Unbelievable, isn't it? That's the Lord. So special. God is way beyond us.
Yes, He is.
Yeah.
Jason,
obviously that's kind of an understatement, isn't it?
He is truly amazing. He is. I don't think that, it's back to that amazing thing. There's no word truly good enough to express God.
I had a friend that just told me the other day, speaking about that, it's an important thing for us to learn, I think, in life is, Jason, I want you to put yourself in the wedding at Cana.
Wow.
And I want you to pretend that you're Mary in that story. So I said, okay. And he said, and I want you to take your problem to Jesus. And I want you to tell Jesus the problem, but you can't tell Him how to fix it. And I want you to try that with everything you bring to God. You bring Him the issue, but you can't tell Him how to fix it. You can't tell Him how to fulfill the desire of your heart. You just bring it to Him. And then you let Him and then you tell everybody around you to just simply do what He tells them to do.
Takes the whole soulish part of it out of it.
Amazing, yeah. That God actually hears our prayer. It's awesome.
As they would say, the proof sits right here.
Yeah.
I think that's the most amazing part to me is she wrote that prayer over your life, in fact, and come back and to receive healing, the anointing of the Lord being on that and touching her heart to comfort her in that time. That's amazing. I know we're back to that, but that is truly, that's God. That's something we couldn't put our hand to. We couldn't try to express. All too many times it's like, if we can sit here and figure it out, it's probably not God.
Yeah.
Wow. Another thing that intrigued me is the gift that the Lord has given you. It's amazing. You talk about getting into worship and the Father's heart just coming upon you in worship. And at 15, you begin to, lead worship in a church or be involved in worship. And
I just sang. I actually sang the tracks, if you can believe it.
Wow.
Yeah. I just sing the tracks, or back then you just sing. I'm 35, so that's 20 years ago. So I'd sing the tracks and...
Wow, so it was more of a performance-based...
A bit.
Wow.
I mean, I don't think that I would have seen it that way at the time, but now that I look back on it, of course, it was a lot more performance than what I do now, that's for sure. But
where did you come into that place of relationship?
Well, I'll tell you a few things.
I guess that's the way to put it, relationship, and
Yeah. Well, of course, one of the first things that I didn't know was happening to me was that, when I got married, my wife, she's kind of a no-nonsense sort of lady. She doesn't really like fluff or things that are fake, or she's just not made that way. And I think most of us would say that we don't like things that are fake, but she really doesn't like things that are fake. Mm-hmm. And so she would see me all the time just like singing in that way. And then she would see me at home sitting at the piano just singing my heart, maybe a song that I had written, a prayer, reading over the scriptures and singing my heart out to the Lord. She bought me my first little keyboard and sat it in a room that we had in our little apartment, and And we kind of made that like a space, a worship space, a creative space, a place to just kind of go sing together, write together, think together, pray together, and read. And so sit in silence. And so I would start to, like, in that room, I would be on the piano and I'd start to sing my heart, and she'd say, there's such a sweet thing that happens when you just sing your heart. This never happens when you sing this other way. It happens when you sing your heart. I don't think you were created to sing that way. I think you were just created to just write, to sing your heart. There's something sweet about it. Why don't you just do that? And without getting into all the, there's a lot to that. Obviously, I didn't take that well. I was frustrated, confused, and scared to just be myself. Because I had been brought up enough in church to know that being yourself isn't part of the package usually. You know what I mean? We say it, but,
saying it and doing it.
Yeah. And so I just said, okay, I'm going to try it. So I tried it one time. And then I tried it again, and I tried it again, and I tried it again, and I never went back. And I started writing. And then, so at 15, I kind of started it. Singing, doing various things. 17, I was introduced to a man named Dr. Robert Stamps, who was a Methodist minister in United Methodist Church, Park Avenue United Methodist Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I used to get together with him at Kieran's Family Restaurant every 6 a.m. on Tuesday mornings for mentorship. And he was my first mentor, and he actually said one time, large Methodist church, why don't you lead worship on Sunday? I led worship that Sunday. And this is before I got married, before this situation with my wife. I'm kind of backtracking here a little bit, and he said, why don't you lead worship? I led worship. It was absolutely horrible. I got done leading worship. The drummer came up to me, kind of yelled at me, told me I needed to get rhythm lessons, which is probably true. And I walked down the aisle of the church, and there was several of them like her in this building, and I went for the one that I could, the quickest I could get out of that room. I wanted to get out of that building. So I went for that route to the door, and Dr. Robert Stamps was sitting back in the middle of the sanctuary shaking people's hands. Thousands of people in the room. And I'm trying to get my way out. And I hear his big old loud voice scream at me across the room, "Get over here, Jason." He calls to me. Now, I was frustrated, sad. I had felt like I had ruined the whole worship service. People were yelling at me because they didn't think I did a good job. And so there was a lot of, I'm sure I would have gotten back into it, but there was a lot of destiny on the line there. And I know that he didn't necessarily think that it was a perfect performance per se, nor that it was a great worship service in a performance sort of way. But as I'm walking out, he yells at me. I come walking through the crowd. I walk up to him. He gives me a big hug, kisses me on the cheek, and whispers in my ear, "I love the original song that you did. I love the worship because I love your heart. You're going to have to do it again." And I walked out that day, and from that time on, it was like in my spirit, there was something instilled in me. I didn't do it again. I was too afraid. But there was something in me that he spoke. I don't care about what the people think of you. I don't care if they liked the service. I don't care about shaking everybody's hand and saying to them, "Oh, he's just a little zealous, he's a little rusty, he's a little this, he's a little that." He cared more about me and my destiny and what he saw in my heart. And thank God for Robert Stamps. And so then when I didn't really do anything and got a little scared, and Rachel kind of tells me that, of course, that